Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast. Whenever I can have new faces and new guests on the show, I always invite people in. I've been doing this podcast for, I think, 5 years. Like, it's crazy. And I remember Garrett saying, like, you should do a podcast. I'm like, hairstylists don't do podcasts. But I was like, he's like, just do it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I have this bow on. Bree gave me, this is Bree. She is actually one of my students in MBR. She is amazing. I've gotten to get to know her more throughout her journey and her story and her husband and her life and everything. She actually gave me this shirt, you guys, and it's amazing. Okay, I feel like a present. I feel like I love it.
The bigger the better.
The bigger the better. I love big hair, big bows, all the things. It's like a giant bow shirt, and I love it. So, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have you and hear more of your story because I feel like the more it's scary to share your story, but the more you do, the more people are like, hey, like, I love that you shared that. And even for me, like, I always get, and I don't know about you, but like, I get scared about sharing like married life and kid life and personal things because I'm like, we're in the beauty industry. Yeah. Like, can we share that? And then I do, and I get a client who's like, hey, like, I saw your hair and the Instagram was pretty. She's like, but you know what hooked me is like your story. So I think that really is important, and you never know who's listening and who you're going to impact. So I wanted to kind of get to know a little bit more of you on this podcast today and even hear more about kind of your backstory. So kind of start by telling us where you're from, your salon, just a tidbit of like your background.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Bree Gentry from Fresno, California, actually a little cow town outside of Fresno called Clovis. And I've been a stylist for 19 years, a salon owner for 16. And I literally started my salon when I was 21 years old. Oh, wow. I knew nothing. I had no money. I was just excited and motivated and thought, oh, this is going to be awesome. I'll have all these people that work under me, and I'll live.
Were you married at the time?
Yes. My husband and I got married at 21.
Oh, wow.
So we opened our business and married all within 1 year. I don't recommend it. It was rough.
I mean, I was like, that sounds like a not the best recipe, but you guys are still together and making it work.
Totally. It was heavy, but we did it, and we grew so much in the process. I got to a point in 2019 where I came across you on Instagram, which led me to Big Money Stylist, and I text one of my girlfriends that actually had moved out of my salon. She relocated to Washington, and I said, look, girl, I think we need to do this. And she's like, oh my gosh, I've never spent that much on my education before. Are you sure? I'm like, well, I'm doing it. I have to do it. I don't have a choice. And she's like, okay, let's go. I'm going to do it. And so the two of us kind of went with like zero expectation. It was, we were there for whatever God had for us, and I was ready for it. I was at a point in my career where I just needed relief. And I thought, I work like a dog behind the chair. I had
Did you have a full team at that point?
I had a full salon. Yes. Okay. I had almost 20. I know I had at least 20 artists. I don't know the exact number, but I was working at max capacity and time, maxed out my space. And I was just at a point where I knew I needed to do something different to make the money make sense, make the hours make sense, and more importantly, make the time that I was away from my family make sense. Right. And I just had to come to some really hard realizations of facts that were not working anymore. Even though the money was good, I was making good money at the time, I thought, until my mind opened up to a whole new possibility of what it could be.
Isn't that crazy in our industry? It's like it's like this is what equals success. When you get here, this is the ceiling. This is what to expect. And then we get there and we're like, I love the craft. I love the people. But like all of a sudden you start to question things. You're like, is this really worth taking, like you said, taking away this time from my babies? Yeah. And when you get to that burnout phase, especially as an artist and as a mom, you kind of are like, hey, this is not the ceiling. And what they taught us in our industry is wrong in a sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think for myself, where I was, like I said, I was making good money and that felt good, but I did not like I felt like I was in prison. I had created this monster that I worked so hard to create this machine, but I was the driving force, and I really had nothing left in me to give at that point.
Well, how was your relationship at that point?
Oh gosh, Danielle, I was at the lowest of lows. I literally bought my house with a 10-day-old. I had just had my second daughter, and we were remodeling. We were about $180,000 over budget and still had no countertops. I literally moved into my house with one bathtub and one sink working. And I just said, forget it. I'm moving in with what we have, and I got to figure this out. And my husband was not in a good place. That was an emotional roller coaster with doing construction
that was
together.
In 2019?
Yes, and with our second daughter.
10 days old?
10 days old,
Wow.
I bought that house. And it was a 6-month remodel, and I was in the thick of it in November when we went to BMS Con 4. And I just said, I have to do this, and I don't have a choice. I was in a place of desperation.
Isn't it interesting that all of a sudden opportunities present themselves when you're like, holy shit, like I can't continue at this pace.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden, like literally, like you see something and you've seen it like a million times, and all of a sudden you're like, I have to do this. I have to do something different.
Totally.
So 2019, things were crazy. What happened after you came to BMS Con, and then like what happened after that?
Well, I honestly, I don't want hobby hairstylists in my salon anymore. We are
boundaries.
Something that really hit me hard. I think Coach Carlos said it is we are in the business of making money, and we utilize hair to do so.
Right. It's a tool.
Totally. And we have to change our state of mind to really outproduce last year. You know, it's like we reached this cap, and then what?
Right.
You know? And so I had to get out of my own head and be like, I have let relationships block my potential in business. And I had to come to grips with what I had to do when I got home was set some really healthy and clear boundaries for me to move forward. And that was
with clients, do you feel like?
Yes, with clients, with stylists, with just a lot of professional relationships that became personal. And I had to look at it from a standpoint of I need to survive and provide, and I don't have a choice. And I can't let our personal relationship get in the way of what I have to do as a mother, as a wife, as a business owner. And that was the hardest facts to face through the process.
Do you feel like during that phase, I feel like for me, I've gone through like multiple times where I call it like the alpha phase, where it's like, you can say like masculine, but it's not. It's literally like sink or swim.
Yeah.
And you're like, I got babies, I'm swimming. So like get out of the way.
Totally.
But then it's like what you do on the other side of that is just like crazy. You're like, okay, wow. I'm so glad that I made a left instead of a right. I'm so glad that I chose to do something different. And although it's hard, it like who you are on the other side of it, you're like, wow. And so that's really what I kind of wanted to talk about. And I love that you're sharing your story is just like being uncomfortable is just a season.
Oh yeah.
That's what people don't understand. Like getting uncomfortable is just a season in order to see what's on the other side of that. And so people think like, oh, when you're comfortable and you're successful, especially, you're scared to get uncomfortable again because you're like, oh, but once you know that just uncomfortable is a season, you're willing to challenge yourself more. So when you were in that space and things had to shift and change, how long did you feel like where you were like, oh, there's light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, I honestly took action right away. I got home in November of 2019, and I gave my stylist a 30-day notice that you have 30 days to rise, decide if you want this. I offered an invitation for all of them to stay. And I said, I want focused, driven, professional stylists. We are no longer in the hobby of doing hair.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter where you live.
No, it doesn't. And so I said, here's the level and the standard that I'm at. You have the option to rise or you don't. And so I made a goal for myself that I was going to get 90 NBR clients in 1 year. And 2020 hit and we literally shut down our salon.
Yeah.
But the truth is, through that, I felt like that only helped business. People were like wanting to support you and wanting to step in and be like, oh, you're open. I can't wait. Sign me up for whatever service I can have, you know?
And people wanted to feel, it's so crazy. Like, I felt like during that time, like, even though we were all wearing sweatpants every day, like, everyone still wanted really good hair.
Totally.
Like, it's such, like, I always say, like, hair is not just hair. Like, hair is, like, my superpowers. Like if I don't have my hair in, I'm not as good of a mom. I know that sounds cheesy and stupid, but like literally when you feel beautiful, you feel more powerful.
Absolutely.
So I feel like during that time, that's when like women were like, no, I need my superhero cloak.
Totally true. And also the one thing they felt like they could control. Like everything else in the world is chaos, but at least I can get up, do my makeup and feel good and have my hair done. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it was that pivot was instant. And then the growth just shot through the roof. And I can't tell you enough. I've said this before to both you and Garrett, how much that changed my life because it opened my mind to a whole different world of opportunity. And I felt like, okay, I can only see so many clients a day at max out whatever to be the most expensive in town. At what point can I, like hit the limit? Where am I going with this? And I just felt like I kept trying to I was chasing my tail and working like a dog. And NBR gave me the opportunity for one, relief, and for two, growth that was beyond this maxed out space that I was already in, and just desperate, just trying to.
What did it do for your relationship? Because I know you said you it's Mark, right?
Yeah.
I drew a blank for a second. I'm like, it's Mark, right? You and Mark were kind of like in a sticky spot, I'm sure. Like when you have kids and you're like moving and everything else, you're like, I think I love you. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I basically offered him the same invitation as the salon.
Good for you.
I said, you have a choice to be here, and we are going to operate at this standard and nothing less. Right. And if you choose not to be here, that was your choice.
Yeah.
But I'm not accepting anything less of that.
I actually love that you're actually saying that on the podcast, because Garrett would often say like, oh, you're such a critical bitch. And I was like, no. I might be, but I have standards.
Yeah,
and I think that it's women's job to push powerful men. Like it's like literally like, hey, acknowledge like you're doing great, but like here's where I see us going.
Yeah.
And I think that very few women, especially I think because you're like a producer too, I don't know if it makes it easier, but it's just like, hey, I expect you to meet me. I expect you to come with me. And so a relationship becomes kind of this push and pull kind of thing, where you're like, I think that women just think that they're being led by their men. And I disagree. I think it's push and pull always. I think that women should be leading their men, whether it's to wake up or hold a higher standard or whatever it is. And so I love that you're actually communicating that on this podcast, because I think that women are kind of timid to do so.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that he has added fuel to my fire, and vice versa. At times where I've had to expect something from him, learning to communicate that is so much healthier than being in a space frustrated that nobody could say what they needed or wanted. And I had to come to some realizations there in that moment also, this has to change and be different for us as a couple, not just for me, not just for the salon, but the standard has to rise for all of us, and we have to rise to the standard. We can't accept anything less, or we're going to still constantly be chasing our tail in the same year as 2019 and 2020, and I wasn't accepting of that.
Do you see, for me, I feel like a healthy relationship actually bleeds into business and kids and everything else. So as much as people say it doesn't, it's all connected. So if you can have a powerful business, then you can transfer that into a powerful marriage. And if you can't, I almost feel like it holds you back in business. So there or even holds you back in being the best mom you can be or whatever it is. They are all so connected. And I don't think that people realize that. What's your experience with that?
Oh, absolutely. Mark and I had, after going through those trenches, we had to really decide that we had to connect on a personal level to bleed into our businesses, as you said, to elevate everything. We couldn't have it good in the business place and not have it good at home. We couldn't be, good as individuals and then have, issues in the business or whatever. We really needed to be well-rounded in all four areas of our life that I had to learn through BMS and just our core four, how important that was to us, and our body being in balance and business, they all are as equally important, and serving them every day became habits and helping us grow into the people that we are and develop a healthier marriage that I honestly didn't think I could sit here and tell you back in 2019. I really thought it would be the end of the road for us.
You guys have 3 kids, or
we have 3 daughters?
Because I was
We have 3 daughters.
I'm always
Danielle.
like, I've got 4.
You
and
got it. You
I'm like,
get it.
do you want another? I was
no,
like, yeah.
I
No, I
don't.
thought I was done at 3 too. And then I was like, whoa, surprise.
Yes.
How old is your youngest again?
She is 1 tomorrow.
Oh, cute.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's
So,
great.
yeah, I remember thinking you had at least 3, and I didn't know they were all girls. Maybe you told me that. I just forgot. But
Yes.
so you, after 2, you were like, I don't know if this is going to work out. So when did
Yeah.
baby 3 come along? Something.
Oh, yeah. Something
You started to
happened.
like each other a little again.
Absolutely. Actually, Mark started the Warrior program with Garrett, and I believe that was in the heart of 2021. And he did the year-long program, but really didn't sell out until maybe like halfway through the year. And he's like, I know that I have to change my life or I'm going to end up in the same pattern. And so he chose that, not just for me and his kids, but first and foremost for himself.
That's good.
And I can tell you, there is nothing more attractive about a man than when he shows up for himself.
Right.
And I can tell you also, he is not the same person today that he was even 6
I
months
chills.
ago.
I love that.
I know.
I love that.
It was.
I truly believe that when two individuals in a relationship, when you can kind of like work on the relationship, but when you actually show up for you and you grow at the same pace, that's when the magic starts to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that's awesome.
And I think just realizing the possibilities when we are aligned has just like opened our eyes to so much more. And we truly want to live our life in abundance. And we didn't understand what that was until we got out of this little tiny box that we put ourselves in. And realize, okay, in order to grow, we have to stretch. And in the stretching, there's pain. And words you shared the other day in our Academy Council group, I keep repeating them almost on the daily to so many people, is sometimes you have to go through a really dark place before you see the light.
Right.
And that dark place for everyone is different. And I've been in that dark place so many times. But I know in my being, in my core, knowing who I am in Christ and with clarity, we're going to reach the next level, and it's going to be 10 times greater.
I love that you just shared that, because I think the first time that Garrett and I were going through a lot of pain, when it's kind of like your world gets flipped upside down for the first time, you're almost like, why me? Why me?
Yeah.
Why is this happening? Oh my God. And then you come out of it and you're like, holy shit. And you feel so strong and so powerful.
Totally.
And so then as you become this different person, it's hard to want to be in that pain, but at least you know, like, this discomfort is for a season. And not to say that it gets any easier, but Garrett always makes the parable of like, hey, you're standing on a ledge, but the drop's only 2 feet and you fall, you know, you're not going to get hurt. You're standing on a ledge, all of a sudden it's a few hundred feet down, you might die. Yeah. Like, literally, it sounds dramatic, but it's like, it's scarier when you've built amazing success because there's more to risk. Yeah. But there's not, because you have to give yourself credit for this person that you've become. And your risks are risky and scary, but like calculated in a way. Yeah. And it's like, hey, we're going to tread through the mud, but trust yourself and the growth and the work that you've done, that you're actually not going to fall a few hundred feet. Yeah, that's absolutely. What's people is so scary, is we get to these new levels and everybody thinks like, it's so risky. And I'm like, you need to trust who you've become. Yeah. And when you can do that, that's when you're like, you know, it's a season. You know that the mud that you're crawling through is merely a season. And so you're willing to be uncomfortable. Like, baby, hold on. Like, we're going to do this. Like, I tell Garrett this all the time. I'm like, we had a rocky year just this year, because I was like, I expected more out of our relationship. I wanted more like I'm a producer, you're a producer. I'm like, I want more of an emotional connection. Yeah. And so I was like, I refuse to just like not fight for that as a woman. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I need more connection. And so I knew I had to kind of smack him around a little bit to like get him to wake up again. Yeah. But I genuinely believe that that's women's calling, is to keep our men like aligned and to continuously wake them up. That's why Garrett named the company Wake Up Warrior, because I feel like I always say, like, I'm the original wake up warrior to the wake up warrior. But I think that women are called to keep their men on track and continuously like push and pull and wake each other up. So you guys had your second baby, then things got good, and then was your third one planned?
No. I don't want to say no. We entertained the idea, and I was...
The minute you left that possibility open to happen?
Oh my gosh. Well, kind of and no, because I said, okay, by the end of the year, this may have been in like August, let's say. By the end of the year, let's just kind of play with fire. if it doesn't
not
happen,
prevent, but not protect.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not, watching my days or anything like that. I just am like, okay, God, we're just going to have fun and see what your plan is. And so it's beginning of December, and I'm thinking, okay, we were going on a vacation to Florida, and I said, okay, next month.
2 weeks later, you're pregnant?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I said, next month when we get back, you're going to make an appointment because I am not, you know? And so he said, okay, that's fine by me. We fly to Florida. And I was a wine drinker. I love wine, love wine. We sit in front of the wine cellar. We finally get there, and all day I kind of felt weird. I looked at this beautiful wine cellar at the resort we were staying at, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am going to lose it on this table. He's like, what's the matter? I said, Mark, I'm pregnant. He says,
how did you know?
Because every wine bottle in that fridge made me feel sick.
Oh, I'm like, look delicious.
Oh my gosh, I was
so you just
so
knew
sick.
how many weeks were you? Do you know? At
No,
that point?
I made him go to Walgreens in Florida and get a pregnancy
that's
test.
So funny.
So then we're there with my in-laws, and I have to tell them because I can't fake it. We
They're
usually
like,
have
Bree,
Bloody
you
Marys
always have
in the
wine.
morning.
Yeah.
Wine every night. I'm like, I can't even look at it.
You
I don't
felt
even
nauseous.
smell
Yeah.
It. Yes. And everything, this third pregnancy was weird. It was nothing like my first two. And I was older, I guess I was considered.
I feel like when you get older, you're just more aware.
True, that is true.
Like when you're young, you're like, I feel fine. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I was definitely more aware. So yeah, baby number 3 came along, and I do not love being pregnant. No. I know it's for some people, but it's
not for anybody. The baby is amazing. But
the baby is amazing. I take the baby all day long. Just the pregnancy, I'm not an anxious person, and I woke up every day feeling like I was gambling with a little child's life, and I couldn't get past that. Yeah. So it was so hard for me emotionally, like in a mental space. So anyways, after 3, I said, I'm done. That's enough. And he agreed. So
did you get sniffed?
What's that?
Did you get sniffed?
No, I have C-section babies, of course, because they're breech. So I ended up having that done.
So
I'm
you're
done.
safe.
Yeah,
you're
safe.
done. Okay,
yes.
I was like, you're not done if you're not.
Totally, but I have to tell you the significance to her name. Her name is Coda.
Oh, cute.
And Coda means the final piece to a basic structure. And so she was our last baby, but my OBGYN had practiced, 50, 60 years, and he delivered over 15,000 babies. He stopped counting, and she was his last baby.
No,
yes.
cute.
So
and
it
did
was
you already
really
know
cool.
that name before? And then
no, we picked it like minutes before we left the hospital.
Cute.
They're like,
Coda.
you guys cannot leave until she has a name.
Cute.
So yeah,
and that was his
CODA.
last baby. Like, did he deliver your other 2?
Oh yeah, both
cute.
of them. Yeah, and so he was done. I had to be done. I was like, okay. This
so now you guys are on a new chapter. There's something about being complete. Like I like when you're complete, you're like. I mean, I don't know how you feel this, but when I was done having my babies, I immediately felt more mature.
Yeah, no.
I was like, I'm on the next chapter. Like, I am still a mom, but like, I'm ready. It's almost like we're still young moms and we have young kids, but I'm like ready to like get the career and everything taking off. I'm like, baby factory is closed.
Exactly.
So where are you guys at right now?
Well, to be honest, I've been like pregnant or breastfeeding for 4 years, I feel like. So tomorrow she's a year, and that was my goal. So cutting that off.
Oh, nice.
I know. So I finally feel
you made it a year?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, it's been a hike. Let me tell you, it wasn't easy. But anyways, we're now in a place where we're like, oh, this is fun.
I just did that. Sorry.
All right. So now I feel like we're in a place where, the kids are getting into their routine and things with life and school and more of a set schedule that we want to have a more structured life to plan around. And for Mark and I, we both have to take a step back from being hands-on so much in our business place to being more hands-on at home. And that, again, is another level, another devil, right?
Right.
We have to decide what does that look like for us in the business game, and what
Your time
can we
just
do?
got that much more.
Totally. And what can we do to still produce and produce more? That's the game, right? And what do we do to be able to gain more time and
but still produce, but even at a higher level, and have time with you. I mean, you still have young babies, so like having time with your kids.
Yeah, absolutely, and wanting to be there, present for those things. And I know a lot of times I feel like with the salon, I find myself sucked back in, even though I leave and I'm off on Thursdays, but I'm sucked back in.
I find when you love what you do, it's hard not to burn out because. And for me, it's balancing purpose. It truly is. I'm like, okay, I got to balance. Like, I love what I do, but if I overdo that, then I don't love it. If I love my kids. If I'm with my kids all the time, I'm like, oh my God, where's a margarita? If I'm with Garrett all the time, I'm like, I need some space for me.
Yeah.
So it truly is. I know some people get triggered by the word balance, but it really is like finding balance in your purpose where you can distribute your energy like in every level and they're all connected.
Absolutely.
And so it's not like you're sacrificing one thing for the other. You're just growing as a whole altogether.
Yep.
Instead of like burning your marriage and your relationship with your kids, but then you have a super successful business. That's not success in life.
Yeah.
And it's like for Garrett and I've been like, I always say, I'm like, we're doing this. We're growing in a rate where we're touching all 4 bases instead of like here, you know what I mean? Because otherwise you get divorced or somebody like that, you don't think that's going to affect you financially, you know? So I think it's so important to kind of like take time for everything. And I think as you get more comfortable, it's hard to want more success, but you're never going to get time back.
Yeah.
So you're like, do you see you guys staying where you're at right now? Because do you feel like you're outgrowing where you live and where you're at, or do you love it?
As far as the space of my home, yes, I am. I have definitely outgrown that. We did not plan to have Coda when we built this home. And so we're in a place right now where I want to add on. I hated my husband under construction, so there's that thought. What do we do?
Right.
But we live in a beautiful place, and it's really hard to trade that for something different just for bigger.
Yeah.
So it definitely has to have a purpose, and I really feel like this place was the home God gave us for a reason to do more with. And so I have a big, grand God dream is what I call it, of what I want to do, and that's serving women in a different way than just the hair industry, but really touching their souls. And I have this vision to build a second home on my property and call it the Retreat House, and it be somewhere where I can serve women in a different way to just get a time out and a break, and they refresh and renew and restore.
Yeah.
After they leave my chair, I can do this outer transformation, and they feel great, but they also feel good inside. You don't want them to lose that momentum once they leave.
Hard too. Don't you feel like in the beauty industry, you're like, because we're in the service industry and we connect with people, but you have to like keep a wall up and keep it professional.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I love that you're like, hey, I love connecting with people, and I want to have another way of serving people.
Absolutely.
You know, and so it's almost like you fulfilled one purpose in your salon and it's running, and then you're like, what's next?
Absolutely.
What else can I do? And I would encourage you to entertain that. You might like open it up and be like, wow, I don't like this at all.
Yeah,
or you might be like, hey, actually, I'm going to take this energy and put it into coaching hairstylists. Or I don't know. Like I, to this day, am in the same space of where I'm like, you feel like you outgrow something. So you're like, what's next? And it's important to entertain that opportunity and that feeling.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're going to discover something about yourself that again could bleed into your salon life, your married life. So whatever you feel called by God right now to open this up, even if it's not long term, I would encourage you to pursue that, because you're going to discover something in yourself. Like I love that when we're like, I want to serve other people, because in serving other people, that's truly when you're like, I needed that as much for me as I did for other people.
Absolutely.
So it's amazing. But well, I know we're like kind of running short on time. I love like hearing other people's stories and where you're at. So you're going to stay with where you're at. You've got a killer salon in Fresno, right outside of Fresno. How far outside?
I mean, it's like a street to separate us.
Oh, so you're like close.
It's very close.
So you've got like a killer team. You're happy. Everything's good there.
Yeah, we do have an awesome team. I shrunk. The words of wisdom Garrett gave me leaving BMS Con 4. He said, the best thing I could tell you is move out chairs and moving couches. Create community. And focus more on quality over quantity.
And you probably didn't lose money doing that. It was probably less stress, huh?
Yes, I should have done this 16 years ago, and it would have saved me so much gray hair. But it was such a huge opportunity for me. Yes, for growth and to pour into what's in front of me. And so I really feel like right now the words God gave me and in a meditation at Academy Council actually was, Bree, water what's in front of you. You have everything that you need. Water what's in front of you.
I believe that. Like, I felt that. Like, just when you said that, I was like, hey, I'm going to encourage you to do this retreat thing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're going to see something in you. You're going to learn something. Like, who knows where it's going to go. And I think that sometimes we want a clear path of like, well, if I do this, where are you going to take me? And it's like, no, entertain this possibility and go with it. You're always going to learn and grow from it. So.
Yeah, and it feels really natural, you know, and not forcing something, which I like. And I also know that when it's from God, all the doors open, and that's already happening just before my eyes. The people I've encountered, the testimonies I've witnessed are just so empowering and just they fuel a fire in you, you know, and being here. I mean, I was here 10 days ago. I'm going to be here again in 10 days for the next Academy Council. I mean, we're spending more time in Laguna.
Just get a second house here.
I know at this point we should, but I really am just so drawn to that energy. It's productive. It's purposeful. It's so filling, and I want to share that with people. You know, what good does it do to keep it to myself? So Mark and I are in an interesting transition right now, and I'm excited. I don't know where it's going to go. But
I love that though. Yeah, like when you don't know where it's going to go, but you know that God will show you. I know it sounds crazy, but like I believe that if you're open, literally all the dots align and doors keep opening, and you're like, wow. And it starts with you just being open and accepting it almost like a calling.
Yes.
So anyways, I love it, you guys. I have like goosebumps here. I'm talking with Bree. Like, we're trying to keep it hair related, but really everybody has their own personal path and their stories. And I love hearing more stories. And although we're in the service industry and we're doing hair, it's so much more than just hair. Hair is the tool. Hair is the craft. So if you guys are listening to this podcast and you're like, I'm really resonating with these women's stories, like, Come join our, I was gonna say our cult, but
yes, do it. It's a cult. It's fine.
It is. I don't care. Like you can call me a cult, but like, call it what you want. But like, we absolutely love what we do. We love our community and our tribe. And I want to invite you to go to mbr.education if you want to find out more about my academy, or I have an online program. Bree's actually in one of my upper level council groups, which is amazing. It's a small group of individual artists that are just pursuing having it all and living the dream. So you guys, thank you so much for listening. We release a new podcast every Tuesday. And make sure to share it with your friends. If you find this motivational or inspiring, share it with your friends, pay it forward, and we'll see you on another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast.